That's me.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Two Seats community. Today we're joined by Gennifer Biggs, who is going to share on how to create a speaker profile. How are you doing today, Jen?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Carrie.
I'm so glad that you could join us to share on this, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you. With that, I'm going to get off camera and let you do your thing.
Thank you. So I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity to talk about this. It came up in our conversation when we had our first meeting together, and I thought it was really interesting that so many people were interested in this. So I'll give you a little background. Speaker profile, my personal speaker profile kind of came about some experience in my professional life. When I worked at Ingram, I coordinated a lot of the speaking that our executives did. And so you all had this happen. Hey, can so-and-so come speak at this event? So can your CEO come? Can your SVP come? Can your CTO come? We'd love to. Let me check their schedule. Check their schedule. And you say to them, great, they can be there. What would you like them to talk about? And I'll gauge their interest level or whatever they want to talk about. Well, that's really helpful. So then you go to your executive and say, hey, they want you to come speak. And the executive asks you the same question. What do they want me to speak about? Well, what would you like to speak about? And it all kind of ended up back in my lap with me basically making up things for people to talk about. And so I sat down with each of them and said, let's get some guardrails on this. Like, where are you going? What would you like to talk about? What's your professional interests? What do we have as a message? What's going on in the industry? Where can we put those all together and have a handful of topics that you can talk about? When I left Ingram, I went into an MSP and we had the same exact problem. Hey, we've bought the sponsorship. We have a speaking slot. 2 weeks before the event, somebody's in my office saying, what are we going to talk about? So we took that idea of topics and took it a little farther. We actually built speaker profiles for our two founders, our CTO, our channel chief, and me. We built them all out. And when I say we, I mean I, because I tend to manage those messages. So we would put together ideas. We would put together the abstracts. Once everybody signed off on them, it gave me a lot to work with because then we had their approval on the topic. We had an approval on where we wanted to go. We knew what they were going to talk about. We actually put up a whole page on our website. It wasn't on the menu, but it was behind the website. So if we had sponsored an event and they wanted one of our people to speak, we could send them there. They could see all of them and they could pick. And it worked really, really well. It kept us off that last minute. Now we have a slide deck. We're literally on the plane on the way to the event trying to decide what we're going to talk about. It eliminated all of that. So our events coordinator loved it. I loved it. Our team loved it. When I left, I took mine with me and I put it in my own personal brand. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And what I'm going to do today is kind of walk you through what mine looks like and how we landed on this kind of equation. By no means is this the end all. So if you can go out and search speaker profiles, you can look at other people's, pick what works best for you. But this is kind of what I've settled on. So I'm going to walk you through kind of the parts of that and ask questions. I'm always going to make Tracy come read questions, but we'll figure that out. We can either wait at the end or we can add them all into the Q&A and I can always go through them before we're done. So elements of a speaker profile are pretty, there's nothing special there, right? You've got a brand. So we're going to talk about that a little bit because I feel strongly about personal brands being as strong as corporate brands are. We'll talk about the intro, which is that first couple paragraphs you see, the topics, which is merely a high level piece, kind of the meat of it, which is the abstract. So you'll see all my check marks. So there's 6 abstracts on my speaker's profile. This is 2 pages. So if you print it two-sided, you have 1 sheet, a little bio, and then contact information, which is sort of like forgetting your date on the invite if you don't do that. So let's talk a little bit about personal brands. We talk a little about personal brands in terms of social media, about your thought leadership, what you're blogging about. We don't always talk about them visually. And that to me means to be as strong as what your brand is personally and thought leadership wise, right? So for me, my brand started with that headshot you see, and you can tell I'm going to have to get a new one here pretty soon when this hair grows out. But I wore something I loved. I wore something that was bright and colorful, which is my personality, and I use it everywhere. So one, if you don't have a headshot, give up lattes for like a month and go get one. They cost like $100, $150. They will become essential to what you do. I know Desiree just got some a while ago that captured her whole personality, but they're very polished and they're very professional. It's part of your brand. So when you do that, and if you don't know how to find a photographer, if you're local somewhere, look in your LinkedIn, find local connections that have a great headshot you love and just send them a note. Most people love it. I have a great photographer. She's actually the same one who took Tracy's headshot in LinkedIn. So if you live near Erie, call me and I'll hook you up. But that headshot became kind of the cornerstone of what I did. Now, my second tip here is Canva. And Carrie and I just had a conversation about Canva yesterday, Canva. If you've never used it, it is all of the functionality of Adobe and none of the hassle. And it's simple and it's easy. It's graphics for people on the run. You can use it on your phone. You can do all sorts of things. It has templates for resumes, for speaker profiles, for infographics. I did my graphic one pager, like at a glance resume in there. But if you buy, you can use it for free. But if you buy the professional one, which is like $13 a month or something, it actually gives you a brand. So the first thing I did was load that headshot in there and it picked my color palette for me and said, hey, would you like to create a brand palette? Well, yes, I would. There's a teal as well. I don't know. I didn't put that on there. It's like a dark teal that goes with it. And then I picked a font and that's the basis for everything I do. So just like a business where you have a font and a color, you have some graphical elements that become standard in everything you do, then you kind of pull that together and it becomes your look and feel. And if you have a one-pager resume, which are super fun, you can use it there. It makes creating your own PowerPoint really easy. A lot of this you'll find from me. I'm a big believer in putting in some time for a day or two up front, and it makes your life way easier in the long run. And the speaker profiles like that. You do some effort with this up front and some thought and kind of some development, and then it's easier moving forward. So that's my build your brand soapbox. In terms of the actual document, so on mine, it's got that header, that gray brand that I use on everything. The next first section is an introduction. That is not your bio. This is where you want to talk about your expertise, what you do, why you're an expert, why you matter to their audience, and kind of the value you bring. So lots of people who know a lot of things are not good speakers. We've all been there. We've all heard them. Lots of people who are really, really interesting speakers have a very varied background. So what you really want to do here is kind of tell them why they want you as a speaker, kind of what your area is, and what your focus is. So I kind of highlighted in mine. It's very short. It's like 100 words. It's the first two paragraphs. Marketing strategist, 3 decades as a comms expert, exclusively in tech, S&B and MSP. So kind of those key things that say, hey, if you're running an event that deals with these things, I'm a good fit for you. So that's tight. It's short. You're going to hear that from me a lot here. This is succinct, right? You want this to be a quick read. You want to get the information out to them quickly, creatively, and keep it that high level. This is not a resume. You're not telling them I've worked at all these jobs for all these years. You're going to wear that expertise just like you would as a speaker. Second section is topics. Again, high level. So you can be a marketing person and have zero interest in talking to social media. You could be a comms person and not want to talk about a particular sort of thing. You could be a sales expert and have no interest in cold calling, right? So think about those broad topics you can talk to, because a lot of times people see Marcom or they see sales or they see cybersecurity and they just lump you into that space without thinking through uniquely what you want to talk about. This gives them a high level so they can think, well, here are all the things they could talk about. So if you don't see something specifically on the abstract side, go back to this topic list. They might still say, hey, I love these abstracts, but let's talk more about that marketing ops thing. You don't have an abstract for that. What could you tell us about that? And then that conversation continues to go forward, even if they don't see specifically something on your list of predetermined topics that appeals to them. Little hint here, align these skills with what you see on your resume and your LinkedIn. So most of us in our resume have that section of skills that's big picture, right? Executive communications, crisis communications. You can see mine here. So think about those sort of topics, but don't set up any red flags by not having those align with what you have in those other places. It's easy to do that as you move through your career. So take the time to go back and make sure all those are updated and in alignment. This is the meat, the abstracts and the takeaway. So here are two of mine. These are word for word right off mine. This is what we've all read. You're at whatever conference, there's your 17 choices for 115 and you have to pick one. This is how you get people in your room. This is how you get seats in those chairs. This is where you're selling yourself the most. So these are quite literally what I would send to a conference. So they're 100 words or less, because that's usually what the cutoff is. It's got the title of my presentation. It's got a quick introduction. Here's the problem. Here's the challenge. Here's what we're going to talk to teach you how to overcome that. Those bullet points on either side are actually the topics on my slides. So it's that far down the line. If someone said to me, we want you to present the 4 C's, here you go. There's the abstract. You may tweak them here and there if you're doing something that's industry specific, vertical specific, if your audience changes. Maybe you're presenting end user versus MSP, or you're presenting colleagues, whatever it is, but you have most of it buttoned down right here. I said at the beginning, part of this process is getting yourself together to save yourself time later. So what we found was this was what was holding us up. Who's going to talk about this? What are we going to talk about? Okay, well, I don't know. Great. Thanks for your help. So we kind of sat down and thought, where are each of our people's passions and their knowledge? Where do those two things intersect? And here's what we know that they've talked about, and they have this information. And usually if I'm doing them for someone else, I actually outline where I think this would go. So they would get that 20-minute outline, bullet points, couple talking points, maybe some notes from me. They would approve that, and then we could literally build their slide deck off that outline. You can do the same thing. When you're writing these abstracts, you don't have to have 6. You could start with 1 or 2, whatever you want to do, but take that time and really think through. Sure, I could write all the words and say, yeah, I'm going to tell you about all this, but can I? And how would that story unfold? In your creativity and your interest and your hook is going to come out of that thoughtfulness. So take that time. If you really want to speak and speak often, once you've done that, I would take the step of even just opening a blank PowerPoint, dumping it in there. And when you think about interesting anecdotes or talking points, throw it in there so that when you do land a speaking spot, you're almost done. Because we all know Murphy's Law, you get the speaking slot in the middle of 4 other shows right after your kids graduating from high school, right? That's always how it works. So do that work ahead. It will make this document way, way better, but it also puts you ahead of everything else that's coming after this. So you're prepared, it's aligned, you're ready to go. I have had people call me. When I was in the MSP space, we would have a speaker through a sponsorship. When we had someone call us, we were literally in the airport, and the person who was speaking on marketing was sick. And they're like, can Jen come talk about this? I'm like, sure. And I could, because we had that done. So I literally put some color on some slides, threw it in their brand template, tweaked it a little bit, and was off to the races. I couldn't have done that. And I won all sorts of favors out of that. But it was easy for me because I knew what it needed to say and I'd done it before in my head, but now I had all the pieces together. Sometimes that's a great opportunity and you can do it on the fly. You're ready to go. Last but not least, so the intro tells them your value to their audience. The bio comes at the end. Again, less than 250 words. We're talking a couple paragraphs here. It's about you at a high level. Again, this is not you listing off all the places you've worked. This is you talking about who you are and what you do. This is quite literally my first paragraph, and it's my elevator pitch, right? Tell me what you do. I create and execute effective communication strategies for technology companies, both large and small, working primarily with SMB and MSP audiences. That's it. That's who I am. That's what I do. One sentence. The rest of it just kind of wraps it up a little bit. I usually throw a little sentence at the end that's personal. So mine closes with, I live in Erie. I'm an avid scuba diver and kayaker, and I'm mama to 2 dogs, right? Just a little bit more about me. I don't put in education. I'm 53. Nobody gives a damn where I went to school. They don't care that I've worked at all these places. What they want to know is, as a speaker, do I have the chops? Do I have the experience? Do I have the color? Do I have the creativity? Yes. So that's really what this document's about, is selling yourself just like you would sell your business, just like you would sell your product. You want all of those things firing on all cylinders. Last but not least, and this is an easy one. This is also why I have that branded section at the top. It's all built together. It's locked. Photo, name, title, and all of my contact, my LinkedIn, my phone number, my email. I have a blog, so it's on there. You don't have to do it that way. I do it that way so I don't forget. But you could also just add it at the bottom. You could put it in the side. You can make it a graphic element, whatever you want to do. But so often you think, but I'm sending this to someone or I'm submitting this, they already know who I am. But if they hand it along to someone else, you can lose that. You want them to be able to get a hold of you. When we do it for executives, we put a, like, if you're interested in having Gennifer speak, please email us at blah, 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 because sometimes it was me and not the person. But for yourself, just put all that contact information in there, and you don't want to overlook that. It's one of those little things that you get so wrapped up in the big picture, you forget the little stuff. Final tips, unique value, right? So, everybody's a marketer, everybody's a comms person, everybody's a salesperson, right? There's all the buzzwords. What do you bring that's unique? Where is your passion? What are you going to get up on a stage and really light everybody up? Where can you offer actionable information, things they can walk away and do with? Like, the best speakers you've ever seen are one of two things. They're either completely inspirational and they blow you away because just the things that they've done just strike your heart, or there are people that tell you how to fix things, right? So I don't know how to do this, but I left this speaker and I had all these notes, all these things I can go back to my business, go back to my personal life and do something with. That's what you want. You want to be one of those two things. Don't lose sight of your audience. So who are you talking to? Are you talking to colleagues? Are you talking to other women leaders? Are you talking to MSPs? Are you talking to small business leaders? Are you talking to a vertical? So I'm going back into the MSP space. If I did marketing presentations, I may have a speaker's profile that's unique to our end users in a particular vertical. So, hey, let me tell you how to use marketing and content to elevate your law firm, right? So I can still be the expert for one of your partners, but I can tweak it. You can have more than one speaker's profile, just like many of us have more than one resume that's unique to a particular space. That really lets you kind of flex your muscle in that area versus trying to push it all together. Make it short. Like, you don't even have to have 2 pages. If you've only got a couple abstracts and you can fit it on one, go for it, right? Because you want it to be easily digested. You want it to be quick. You want to get right to the point. You don't want to waste anybody's time. They get, just like resumes, they get hundreds of these. We kind of talked about investing that time up front. The more you do when you work this process out, the less you have to do long term. I also think it gives you time to really think about the value. There's a whole nother 20-minute presentation on practicing your presentations. If you don't have a plan and you haven't thought it through, you most certainly can't practice it and hone it. So this gives you extra time to do that when you're closer to the event, because you've already got these pieces in place. Lastly, can you leave something with them? So we go to that actionable part. Can you give them some slides to share? Can you give them an infographic? Can you give them a checklist? Can you give them an empty template? I could easily do a presentation on this and give them an empty speaker's profile with tips in the place of what content would be and give it to them. If you're looking for lead gen, you can use that. Like, all you have to do is email me at Jen Biggs and we're going to send this to you. So now you've just turned it into a lead gen opportunity. Or if you just want to give them something of value, what's living in your head can be really valuable to someone else and very easy for you. So kind of think through what you might be able to do in terms of that. That's all I've got. I'm a fast talker, so I'm guessing that there might be questions. Tracy's laughing at that.
I'm going to switch sides.
She's going to come back to the little short table.
I'll come to the question side of the board.
Uh-oh. Does it mean I have to move it?
You're good.
Oh,
check this out.
We're going to move this
Sliding
again.
over. We're good. All right, Kira, you were mentioning to me in the background that you had to hit the road because you were
I do. So I wanted to thank Jen for presenting today. The Tracy is also a host of this channel, so when I leave, the presentation will continue. Jen, as always, thank you for your contribution to the community and just for being an awesome person. And I will look forward to seeing everybody next Wednesday when Colleen Fry will be presenting. So see you guys soon.
All right. Travel safe.